Hello everyone, so today we are going to be talking about the first book, which is Practical Candle Burning Rituals. So a few weeks ago I had talked about the sequel to this book, which is Advanced Candle Magic, and I loved that book. This one I can see why some people don't love Raymond Buckland. It's one of those that I wasn't the biggest fan of. So here is why. So the first major thing about this book that you need to know is that it is mainly just a spell book, which is fine. But if you are new, I don't know if the explanation at the beginning of the book is really going to be enough. It was just a handful of pages. So keep that in mind if you're like brand new into it. Might not have all of the background information that you're going to need, which was a little disappointing, and the spells weren't really explained. Like, it tells you step by step what you're doing, but not necessarily like the purpose of them. And I know that some people don't necessarily need those, and for the most part spells kind of make sense, but there's just a few of them that I was like, what exactly are you getting at for this one? And I prefer when spells give even just a couple sentences of like, use this spell for blah 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 situation, and it didn't have those. There was one in particular about like a house that I was like, what exactly are you saying? Like, is it to like bless a house when you move in, when the energy's feeling funky, when you think it's possessed and like haunted? Like, what exactly are you getting at? And again, just a little sentence or two to explain like the situations that typically you would use the spell for, I feel like would have been a little helpful. So the other thing is, for me personally, why I don't like this book, but for other people it could be why you love this book. And it is that he takes the same set of spells, duplicates them, and changes them slightly so that it's a Christian version. Yep, it's Christian spells for half the book. All of them are just repeated with a Christian twist. So if you are a Christian witch, or you want to incorporate that into your practice, awesome. You have a huge set of spells, because I don't know that there are that many books out there. Granted, I'm never going to look into it because that is 100% not something I'm interested in. But if that is your speed, you have a lot to choose from. That being said, a lot of these are very negative. To cause jealousy, to break up a relationship. Like, there's a lot of like, consent is just like tossed out the window. Ethics and morals kind of come into question, and you're just like, okay. And he specifically says like, this is not a witchcraft book, but like, I don't know, it's kind of a witchcraft book. You can have Christian witches, and you can have witches that have a very different morale and ethics and things. But I don't know, that was a little weird. And he contradicts what he says in the advanced version in this one, where he talks about you don't need to do all of these things. Like, one example is you don't need to have like, you know, a change to your diet before you do a spell. But then in the next one he says to do that exact thing. You have like, you can only drink water, you can only have, what was it, like wheat bread and honey like 24 hours before you do a spell. And in this book he is like, I don't have to worry about any of that. So it's kind of like, okay. Granted, these books are very far apart. It's like 25, 26 years between the two, so maybe he just changed his opinions over the years, which is fine. But it was just kind of like reading that one, and then a couple weeks later reading this one, it was like, Like, I would still prefer the other version to this one, but it's still a good book for people who want that kind of information. If you want to do the more darker spells and, you know, ethics don't really, you know, your ethics don't necessarily have an issue with consent or harming others and just inflicting your will on somebody else's and taking away their free will. If that's more of your magic, you've got a lot of options in here. Not to say all of these are bad. There were a few that even I would consider putting into my own spell books. But there was a lot that I was just like, why? Why is this here? This is not what I am wanting to sign up for. And then to top that off, where the second half of it is the exact same ones, just repeated with, I think it was mostly like palms or whatever. Again, I'm not a Christian, never was, know very little about it, like outsider looking in. So that being said, there's a lot of, I think every single one is just like palms and various versions and quotes and whatever from it, and that's the basis of the spell, which, again, if you were a Christian witch, I'm sure you could find a lot of information from that. At the very least, get some good ideas. But I am not a Christian witch, so I have half a book that I am 100% not even remotely interested in. So it was just a bit of kind of a letdown that, you know, you look at this book, which isn't that big to begin with, and then you take, like, literally just half the book, and you're just left with just a little itty bitty pamphlet. But, like, just to give a few examples of, like, what I'm talking about for, like, the negative things that I'm just, like, not my speed. Like, we start off, the first one is to break up a love affair instead of a spell focused on, you know, maybe yourself getting out of that relationship, you know, help in like divorce proceedings and stuff like that. Because obviously if somebody's cheating on you, like, let them go. They didn't love you in the first place. It's my stance on it. And like one that didn't make sense was to settle a disturbed condition in the home. Again, are we talking about like a haunting? Is this like just like a negative person has been around? Like, was there a shooting in the area? Like, little context would have been nice. And a lot of these books, I'm gonna constantly mention this is slowly becoming a really big deal in my practice as I read through more of these books. But it's like, consent, guys. Oh my god, consent. Can this be a thing that we like highly promote? Because to win the love of a man or a woman, I just am like, maybe we just go with like to attract love, not necessarily like a specific person. Love spells are a kind of sketchy area anyways. Overall, is this, you know, the worst book I've ever read? No. Is it one I would recommend? Again, by no means is this the worst book that I have read, even recently. But if you're gonna pick between the two, I feel like you're gonna get more out of the advanced book than this one. And like, yeah, it's good that he encourages that, you know, you don't really need a lot of supplies and you don't need to have more of like ceremonial side of things. That is a plus. But I'm pretty sure most books talk about that too. So, I don't know. I just wasn't thoroughly impressed with this one compared to the other one, but I would love to hear your thoughts. If you loved this book, tell me why. If you didn't like this book, I would love to hear why. Were they similar reasons, different? And of course, I will go over a few more specifics in my extended discussion for this video. That'll be on my Patreon. So until next time, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all soon.